wanted Bernie and his supporters, because I wanted them to be a part of what was going to happen. Hillary won the primary fair and square. She had 4 million more votes than Bernie. She did not set the primary date in Florida or Alabama or my beloved Louisiana. She also had more pledged delegates and more unpledged delegates. Now, I don't know if you read today that Tim Kaine called for the elimination of unpledged delegates. So we need to have these debates within the party. We need to have this conversation. If not now, when?
So what are some of the specific reforms you'd like to see at the DNC?
Well, the Unity Commission is going to take on a lot of the so-called electoral confirms, the pledged versus unpledged delegates. They're also going to take a look at the window, what states go before Iowa, New Hampshire. Once upon a time, most of you people in Florida hated me because we penalized you for going early. 2008. I know, I just want to make sure y'all know that I'm the same Donna. I cause trouble all the time. I also think that, you know, internally the party is making, Tom Perez is doing a great job in reforming the party. That's why we had so many great victories last week across the country. First, let's start by, let's be honest. Howard Dean was absolutely right. We got to have a 50-state strategy. I love you, Florida. I love all 29 of your electoral votes. But there's no reason why from Florida all the way across to New Mexico, there's no other state on this side of the line that gets resources. Virginia gets a few dollars, North Carolina gets a few dollars, but again, look across this vast country, especially in the South, no other state. And so we've missed opportunities over the last 10 years to field Democratic candidates in all of these states. And on Tuesday, Tom Perez invested in down ballot races. That enabled us to have victory after victory after victory. And by the way, we're now 450 votes short of winning 3 more seats in Virginia. So it's important that we invest down ballot, that we put resources across the country, that we adopt Howard Dean's prescription, which is all 50 states matter.
Should the DNC get rid of superdelegates?
You know, as somebody who's been a superdelegate now for 20 years, can I just say no comment? I think we need to have a healthy debate about it. And I think the reason why we should have a healthy debate, and I'll say this, and people, I don't want voters to think that my vote matters more than their vote. And as long as you have that perception that I am somehow or another special, super, that I got power, I don't want that. So with that in mind, I can understand that people like me in the future, if I want to be the delegate to the convention, I need to run. Now, I don't know, as a former chair, chair twice, chair emeritus, I still may have special status, but I don't know. Don't take away all my love.
So there's a point in the book where you say, why wasn't Obama saying something? We're talking about the intelligence. Where were the intelligence agencies? This was a national emergency. Actually, that's a point that I've heard a lot of Republicans make. Why wasn't, if this was all happening, why wasn't President Obama talking about it? Why wasn't he?
My understanding is that President Obama went to the leadership in Congress, Republicans and Democrats, and they said, and Mitch McConnell said, you should not make a big deal out of this, you should not go public. And so the president decided, because he told the president that it would tip the scales. I know that Leader Pelosi went to Paul Ryan, and Paul Ryan ignored her. I know that Chairman Lujan went to his counterpart at the National Republican Congressional Committee. He was ignored. And on October 18th, after our briefing with DHS, I went to Reince Priebus. I went to Reince Priebus on October 4th, which was the Republican the vice presidential debate in Virginia. And he looked at me. There's a picture on Getty Photos. He looked at me because I was all in him. I said, you know this is happening. And this is another revelation.
He always looks that way.
Oh, maybe that's, no, don't start. This is another revelation in the book. I tried to reach out to Sean Spicer, not the Melissa McCarthy Sean Spicer. But I tried to reach out to Sean Spicer throughout the entire time we were being hacked. First, I wanted him to know what was in the hacking. Secondly, I wanted him to know about the spyware and the malware just in case he opened it. What worried me as an American is that if the DNC went down, we would corrupt the election systems across the country, and I wanted to make sure the Republican system was protected. Because we have two major political parties, and we have databases of all of the American voters. And I was worried. And you know, every time I went out to the Republicans, and people call me angry, bitter. Yeah, I am a little upset that the Republicans ignored it. And the reason why Obama didn't use the bullet pulpit more the way you saw Angela Merkel use it in Germany this year is because he was told that you would tip the scale. I also think there's one other reason. And that is because the Hillary Clinton campaign, they were convinced they would win. They were so convinced that they would win that I don't think they even polled in the last 3 weeks. They were going on public polling to say, she's going to win. And meanwhile, here I'm putting cold water on their little, not so fast. I mean, who else would know about, you know, how polls can, I mean, on the day of the election, I mentioned that I walk into the boiler room and they're all sitting there feeling out like what positions they're going to have in the administration and the presidential inaugural. And I'm sitting there like, do you know the people in Durham, the polls are not open because the machines are not working because there's no electricity? And they looked at me like, I said, you know there's a long line in Philadelphia because people, and they looked at me like, and it wasn't until like 7 o'clock that night that they started like, and I'm like, really? And I was so angry at this point. I went over to the so-called victory party, and the first person I ran into was Stevie Wonder. I know Stevie Wonder because I worked with him on the campaign to make King's birthday a national holiday. And so I say, Stevie, what are you doing here? Well, it's a victory party. I said, people are not turning out in Detroit. You should be on the radio like me. I was panicking. And they were not panicking. They thought they were going to win. All day they kept saying to me when I was sending them, Madam Chair, haven't you seen the exit polls? I don't believe exit polls, remember Florida? Yeah.